Welcome to the Brand Boss Show, empowering you to rock your brand like a boss. This show exists to share all the tools, tips, and secrets you need to maximize the impact of your brand.
Welcome back, Brand Boss. This week, I am so excited to have as my guest, Sydney Sherman. And Sydney is a community professional bringing like-minded salespeople together to achieve limitless livelihood. And she does this for the most followed real estate brand on the planet. So Sydney, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm so excited to be here with you.
So why don't you share with the brand bosses a little bit of your background just to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, I started my kind of like prospective career in graphic design. I wanted to be a designer and thought that it was going to be like the best thing in the world. And as much as I love graphic design, I kind of figured out through studying it that I didn't want to do it all day, every day, but I absolutely loved the like psychology behind it. So that kind of led me into marketing because I knew that marketing had a little bit more of that integrated into some of the concepts of design. And through marketing, I did a bunch of student assistantships while I was studying. And through them, I found a love for education. So I worked in education for a little bit as marketing and recruitment coordinator. And in that role, I was able to work a lot with students and kind of help them figure out how to take that next step in their own educational journey and just career journey overall. And that was really fulfilling to me. But I did see kind of like a barrier to entry in higher ed. It's very expensive, it's very time consuming. So I started looking for different opportunities that would make education a bit more accessible. And that's how I landed on Sell It Like Serhant. So now I work with Serhant, which, like you said, is the number one most followed real estate brand in the world. And I work on the Serhant Ventures team in community. So I get to work with people all day, every day, still help them kind of like figure out that next step in their career journey and really prepare for it. But in a way that's a lot more accessible.
I love that. And I just have been blown away. How long have you been with Serhant now? Tell me again.
Since December 2019. So it's been, I can't even do that math in my head. It's been a little while. Yeah, just about.
And the way that Serhant and the Serhant community has grown in that time period is mind-blowing to me.
It's been a wild ride. And, you know, it's something, we have a really great product and we have a very loyal fan base because Ryan, if you don't know, is on $1 Million Listing New York on Bravo. So he's, you know, very public facing. He has loyal fans. You know, a lot of real estate agents look up to him. So it's been great to be able to provide quality education to, you know, so many people who trust in our brand. But yeah, a lot of people have kind of caught on that we offer this now. And, you know, it's been great for me because I just get to meet more and more people every day in our community spaces. But yeah, it's been growing really fast.
It's awesome. It's so exciting to see. I'm so excited for you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's dive into, before we got on, we were just saying this is one of our favorite topics, right, to talk about. And this is the human aspect of business, which is the most often overlooked and yet most important part.
Yeah.
So why don't you share with anybody who's not familiar a little bit about the Serhant community, and then we can kind of get into some of the nuances of that.
Yeah, 100%. So our community is just, you know, what I like to call is like a group of very entrepreneurial salespeople. So primarily we do cater to salespeople, which, you know, from our perspective, everyone's a salesperson, right? Like you're always selling yourself, you know, as a brand, which is why it's so important to have your own brand, which is something that we always talk about too. But yeah, just very entrepreneurial salespeople who really want to reach that next level and achieve what we like to call limitless livelihood. You know, it's different for everyone. Everyone has their own definition of limitless livelihood, but basically what we want to help you do is reach a point where you are feeling like you're successful, where you're feeling like, you know, you get to wake up every morning and just love what you do and keep striving for whatever, you know, improvement means for you on a daily basis. So, you know, our community really gathers around that shared value and that shared belief. And, you know, like we said earlier, it's just growing every day. So I love to see more and more people really excited about their sales careers and just their, you know, their own personal brands in general.
I love that. Yes, it's so important. And there's something about doing that in the context of community
Yes.
because you're surrounded with other people who are, cheering you on, and you get to see, oh, wow, they're doing this. I better get my butt in gear, or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I just feel like when you do that in the context of community, it's so powerful because, doing something by yourself is one thing. But
Mhm.
doing something in the context of community, now you're not in it alone. You don't have to do it alone. You have other people cheering you on. You have other people pushing you on when you need that. You have other people you can look up to, bounce ideas off of, and things like that. Would you say that you
Mhm.
found the same to be true with this?
Oh, 100%. And, right now we gather as a community in a Facebook group. And the amount of posts that we get every day in that group of members just talking about what we like to call your wins, right? So it's like, what can we celebrate with you today? What have you achieved today in your sales career? What are you projected to achieve soon that we can kind of cheer you on across the finish line for? The amount of posts that we get every day of people celebrating their wins with us is just amazing. And not only that, but the amount of comments and likes and reactions and just, people really cheering them on in response to that is just, it's a really great thing to be part of.
I love that. And it really can be a game changer for a lot of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And, we get that feedback more often than not that, people come into Salt Lake Surhant course for primarily the education, right? They have trust in Ryan's brand. They have trust in, what we provide in terms of education and how we go about our own sales careers and our own brands here. So they come to the course for the education, but they stay for the community. I have a lot of people who talk about, a lot of members of us who talk about how the community was kind of like a little surprise that they didn't really know that they were going to get. We had recently hosted focus groups because I'm very big on keeping an open conversation with our members about how we can improve. And so many of them said that it's like a breath of fresh air to come into the Facebook group and communicate because everyone's there to support you, right? You can be on day one of your career asking, what might seem 5 years down the line like such a basic question, and you have people who are just there willing to help, no matter what you're asking or when you're asking it. So that kind of support is definitely something that we value and celebrate together.
I love that. That's such a beautiful thing.
Yes, it is. It's so nice that it's just really like you can't have a bad day working in community because there's just, you kind of get like that refresher that like, there are really great people out there, and like they're closer to you than you think.
It's so true. So for anybody who's listening right now and says, okay, that's great, but I don't have a course, do I need a community? What would you say to them?
Absolutely. I think, not only do you need a community to kind of like support your business, but also to just like understand, what your projected brand is, and how you can improve and how you can really service more people, right? Because, at least from my perspective, anytime you're in business, it's an act of service, right? You're helping other people achieve something through the product or service that you're offering. And by really leaning into your community, you can understand if that's something that you're achieving or how you can do it better. And I think, in many cases, people maybe think, I don't have a product or a service that would generally elicit like a community, but you likely do have it. You just kind of have to find it.
Why don't you speak to that for a minute? Because I love that was something that you put on your intake form for this. And I was like, ooh, I want to hear your thoughts about this, about cultivating the community that you might not even know you have yet.
100%. So, obviously at Salt Lake Surhant, we have more of a formalized community where if you're a member with us, we invite you into this group and we, kind of prime you before you join that this is a community and this is what we do here. But I think the first step to really figuring out what your community is as a business owner, or where your community is gathering and where you can join them, is just by listening. That's something that a lot of people, especially if you're like a solo entrepreneur, you can kind of take for granted, but you got to work in that time to just really listen, see who's talking about your brand. Where are they talking about your brand? And then where can you join in on that conversation? but definitely take the time to listen, try to find any brand mentions or any mentions of you as an individual entrepreneur, and just kind of see what that conversation is and how you can add value to it. And I think that's step one of really finding your community, and not only finding it, but also learning how to lean into it.
Yes, that's so good. I love how you just said that about leaning into the community. What are some ways that business owners can lean into the community that they have?
Yeah, absolutely. So, after you've listened, it's likely that you're going to find some bigger voices in your community, right? Like you're going to start to understand what, a typical community member around your brand, or someone who's, celebrating your brand with you is gonna look like, gonna be like. And then what you can do is figure out ways that you can contribute to that conversation or offer that specific individual or group of individuals some value and support, right? So we call these your super users, right? So these are people who really love what you're putting out. They want to, bring more people in. Sometimes in marketing, you hear the term evangelists, right? Those are the people that you want to kind of tool. So for example, for Sell It Like Sirhan, we have a group of super users who are really leaning into Ryan's brand as a whole. And they've started a Big Money Energy book club. And
wow.
yeah, which is so great. And it was something that we didn't ask for. It was something that they just wanted to do because they wanted to pull more members that exist in our space into that closer sphere of brand engagement with us. And they wanted to celebrate Big Money Energy together and really like learn it and understand it. And as soon as I found out that they were doing that, the first thing I did was email them and I said, thank you, and then I said, how can I help? And now we work together to try to get, more people into the Big Money Energy book club. And they know, since I've reached out to them, that I am a resource and, the different things that they need to, get more people into the book club, or maybe like give away some incentives. Like I'm always here as someone to support them. And I think another way that you can do that is, like I said earlier, just really participating in conversations, right? People don't want to come to a community around your brand and then you're like, you ghost them, like you can create a more formalized place for people to gather, or you don't have to, right? Just meet them where they are and just contribute to that conversation. Let the people who are in your community know that you're listening and know that you're there to support them.
Those are great. Yeah, I want to go back to what you said about those super users, because those are really like your micro influencers.
Oh, 100%. And, this is something that I've really believed in for a long time. Obviously now we're hearing more about like micro influencers and as opposed to like your bigger influencers like Kylie Jenner or someone that, has like a really big reach. And often with those, more like small scale influencers, they have a higher engagement, right? They have people who are super invested in the content that they're sharing. They have high levels of trust with the people that follow them. So being able to lean into them and get some like word of mouth marketing from those people is huge, right? We know the value of word of mouth. We want people to recommend us with authenticity, and you can get that and, get a lot of benefit from it when you are leaning into those super users, even if their following is, not what you would expect when you're investing in influencers. They have really great numbers. And also, you want someone who's authentically excited about your brand, right? You don't want the hashtag ad after everything, because then, it's a giveaway that you're just kind of like leaning into somebody for their reach. But, you really want to, I know I keep using the word celebrate, but really, it really is. You want someone who's going to celebrate your brand with you and get more people involved in that little party.
I love that. And I love how you said that key word there, authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether it's, Instagram, Clubhouse, wherever it is, like people can spot fake a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you have these authentic micro influencers, it's not even, like they started that book club and you didn't even ask them to or know about it. When you have people who are that excited about your brand, and it's even more than what you do. Like they're that excited about your culture. They're that excited about the identity of your company.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best marketing you can have, in my opinion.
It truly is. And I think it's the best type of engagement that you can have with your own brand too, because what I've learned is that, your super users and, those really, engaged customers who are going to project that authenticity are also the people that I like to lean into for the most like authentic reviews, right? Or like suggestions.
Yeah.
And, you know, building that kind of relationship is key for evolving and pivoting. And I think we've all learned over this past year and even into this year that that's really essential, that you understand how you can pivot and how you can provide value, even, you know, in a way that you never thought that you would be able to. And there have been many, many iterations of what we offer based off of this input from our super users, because we know that they're going to be very honest with us. And, you know, having those relationships and welcoming that type of feedback by being a support system and by being someone who always asks for it is key.
Yeah. Can you give a specific example of something like that you guys walked through where the feedback was helpful in you pivoting?
Yes, 100%. So we have a level of membership in Salt Lake Surhan called Pro. And Pro is our mentorship level. And that's like one-to-one mentorship with Ryan. And then, you know, the people in our Pro membership initially only had that one-to-one meeting with Ryan. And then they had a strategy that we presented to them, a 3-month marketing and branding strategy. And that was great, right? They loved it. But, you know, there was always a little something missing. So we would get in touch with them and say, you know, like, have you implemented this plan? You know, what can we do to help you implement this plan if they hadn't done anything yet? And a big response that we got from these super engaged users was, I need the accountability, right? Like, I need someone who can reach out to me and say like, hey, you know, Sydney, are you doing this week? This is in month 2 of your plan. And we're supposed to have this, and this checked off. Like, where are you at? And that authenticity, that accountability, that like check-in was kind of missing. And so that was something that we included in a different iteration of Pro, and we kind of grandfathered everybody in. So anyone who had already been in Pro got kind of renewed into this new system. And the response to the program now is like so much better. Everyone's like a lot happier, getting a lot more done, which is what we want, right? Especially as, you know, I think any brand and any company and any kind of product that you're offering, the priority should always be that result, right? Like, is what you're putting out into the world actually making a difference for the person who's, you know, taking that in?
Yes.
You know, especially in the realm of education, we have a responsibility, right? You can't just put something out just to make money off of it, right? Like, you have to make sure that what you're putting out into the world is actually producing what you're saying it's going to, and then some. And that response and the type of feedback that we're getting after making that change from what our legacy Pro members, we call them, gave to us in terms of their feedback, you know, it's great. The new version of the program is definitely what we want it to be.
Man, that's so powerful. There's so much in that, right? There's that tapping into those micro influencers, there's that listening, and then something about humanizing business is making people feel seen, heard, and valued. And when you do that, you know, whenever you're in a one-on-one conversation and somebody's making you feel seen, heard, and valued, that makes you naturally want to engage. You know, and the same is true for your brand. You know, one of the things that I'm passionate about is that people talk about real life like it's different than business, and it's not. It's no different. And you're building a relationship just like you would build a relationship in any other area of your life. And so when you can make your people feel seen, heard, and valued, you know, and heard is, okay, we listened to you, we're implementing this. Now we have this accountability piece. That's huge. And now they're going to go tell all of the people they know, right? They're following, their friends, whatever you want to call them. Hey, they listened to us, and now this is going to be even better. And then that accountability piece in community is huge, because I feel like in the entrepreneurial world in particular, there is so much, you know, there's so many wonderful courses and trainings, and I'm passionate about that. I know you dig into that personally as well. And so that's awesome. But like you said, sometimes, you know, as business owners, particularly entrepreneurial business owners, we get, you know, squirrel syndrome. And so we might have this awesome knowledge from this thing we just dug into, this course, this program. But then you're like, oh, but I need to learn this over here. Oh, but okay, but what did you do with this? And if there's not somebody holding you accountable to, okay, that's great that you learned this, but now let's see you take action on what you learned. It would be like sitting in a classroom all day, right?
Yep.
And you learn your multiplication tables, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you don't actually put it into practice, you're not going to remember what you learned.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And so this accountability piece, I feel like is really key and something that not everybody takes in mind when they do a community. Because I know like for a challenge, like we've done challenges, we have the Facebook group, we love that. And actually listening to some of our super users caused us to start a community, and then listening to them again and to the identity of our brand caused us to shut it down actually in February, because it wasn't really the highest and best use of our time or theirs as well. But I think in that there's something about we're doing this together. I'm not just here, you know, like I know you're passionate about marketing too. I hate marketing that's like, this is who we are. We're so wonderful. Come buy our stuff. Like, that causes nobody to want to engage with you, by the way. Some tough love truth. Nobody wants to engage with that. Nobody wants to engage with you as a company. Even if they buy this one-time thing, you're not going to see them again. Versus building a real conversation and a real relationship where value is flowing both ways. Now you have engaged users for life, potentially, if you steward them well, right? And so this idea of, okay, we're listening and we're going to implement it. Because that's another thing I think business owners do too. Oh, well, we did a focus group. Oh, well, okay. But did you listen? Like I'm just going to segue for a second. I have a great personal example from this that I just want to give Kajabi a shout out on the air, because I love Kajabi first and foremost. It's like our number one platform that we love for all of our Brand Boss things, products, services, funnels, you name it, right? Now, when we first started, there was a very, very high level of touch point with customer service. And then as it went on, that seemed to fall down a little bit. And so I recently was invited to do a review of Kajabi on Trustpilot. And I was very honest in that review. And I said, we love it. We recommend it to our clients. Like, this is our number one platform. However, I have to be honest that customer service has really fallen down. And I feel like in Kajabi's rapid scaling, they've lost sight of that piece, which is part of what drew me to them initially. And part of what I think is one of the main values that Kajabi offers over other brands. Well, 2 of their high-level executives personally reached out to me as a result of that Trustpilot review and like said, we want to know what are the situations. And so I gave them, these are the situations. This is what happened. They said, we're so sorry. This is what we're going to do about it. Not just we're sorry you felt that way, but like, this is what you're going to do about it. And sent me this long email about the things that they are putting in place to correct those issues that I had. So shout out to Kajabi for doing exactly what we're talking about right here and listening and implementing the feedback from your community, from people who are passionate about engaging with you. They do believe in what you stand for. They do resonate with the identity of your company. And now you're saying, we're not just here doing this, like, you know, like you were saying, Sydney, we're not just here putting out a product to make money, but we want to make sure that we're actually adding value to you. And we're going to listen to make sure that we're doing that in the best way that we can.
Yes. And I love that story. And I think the most important part of that is that they welcomed your feedback. And a lot of, especially when you're someone who's maybe like a solo entrepreneur and what you're doing is literally your whole life. It's your passion. It's, you know, what you're putting out into the world initially is something that you believe so deeply in. It can be so hard to hear any kind of criticism, right? Because you're seeing everything that you're putting out. It's your heart and soul, you know, but what you have to understand is that criticism, you know, hopefully it's always given very nicely, but, you know, even in instances where it's maybe not, it's always a gift, right? And you have to look at it that way, because that person is invested enough in what you're putting out to want it to be better. And I think it's very important in those moments, you know, maybe there's feedback that you're not going to be able to always implement, right? And that's okay, but it's very important that you listen and that you send a thank you and that you send an action plan to that person so that, you know, like Kajabi did with you, so that you know that something is going to be done, right? Or that the feedback that you're giving as a customer and as someone who's invested in that company is actually, you know, being taken into consideration. And I think, you know, going back to something that you said earlier too, even if you implement something that maybe doesn't catch on, or maybe you find out a little bit later, it's, you know, it's a big lift and you just don't have time for it right now, that's okay, right? Your community is going to understand that. Your community wants to see your effort. If you can implement something that's, you know, even just a one-time thing to get everybody excited and then kind of measure that, maybe reprioritize, maybe you can table some things that you thought were going to be really great, but hey, everyone's really loving this, you know, like these are all opportunities to listen and adjust so that you're at the end of the day doing what you're intending to do, and that's contribute and add value to someone else's life in some way.
Absolutely. And I love how you brought that up, like just to give a little bit more description, since I was a little vague on that. So our challenge that we did in July last year, we were primarily targeting boss babes. It's primarily who we were targeting. And that's not really who we serve. And so that was the audience. And then we were going to do a mastermind. And in the context of that challenge, they said, okay, we want this mastermind to be 6 weeks. So we pivoted on the fly. Like I remember it was midnight and Melissa was changing funnels and all this kind of stuff, you know, right before we were about to pitch it, because we were going to do a 90-day program with accountability. And they said, no, we wanted 6 weeks. So we said, sure, we can make that happen. So we're figuring stuff out and pivoting. And so we pitched it and it was crickets. Nobody took our offer. We were like, wait a minute, but you asked us for this. And so then what we did is we leaned into those super users, those people who are most engaged with us in the challenge, and said, hey, what would you need this to be for you? What would be most helpful? And so then we came up with the mastermind community, because what they really needed was that accountability piece, that encouragement, that feedback from each other. So we launched the mastermind community, and it was wonderful for a while. And then one of two things happened. Either people who were about to launch weren't really ready to launch, or just didn't, right? Or the people who were launching and seeing results, or, you know, were taking their business to the next level, because not everybody was launchers in there, got so busy with their business that they didn't have the time to participate in this community, which is fabulous. That's what we wanted them to do. We wanted them to be
right.
And so for all of those reasons, I just sounded like Shark Tank there. For these reasons, I'm out.
I'm out.
But basically, for these reasons, we were out, right? We were like, you know what? This is, now that we're listening again, right? Like we were listening regularly, but we kind of stepped back and said, wait a minute, listening to our own business, first of all, and how the clients that we do serve the best needed us to show up for them. But then also listening to them and saying, you know what? This was, like you said, this was really great in the beginning, but now it's not serving me in the way that I need it to. And so in that time, we don't need to have a monthly mastermind community then, if this is not providing value for you. And so we shut it down and have completely changed our approach in a lot of things. And it was a very helpful experiment. But I think that even though we didn't go into it knowing it was an experiment, I just think it's a great example of this. It's not a one-time listening, right? You have to keep your finger on the pulse. And that really is the difference between engaging with your community and either just talking to them or worse, shouting at them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really good point to make. And I think it really sums it up. You want to make sure that you're engaging with them, not talking at them or shouting at them. And, you know, one of the inherently, right, all of us want two things. We want to belong and we want to contribute. And you can check off both those boxes in a community that's really well done and well managed. You know, getting people to belong, make them feel welcome, celebrate their wins, make sure that the people that you're welcoming into your community have those shared beliefs and shared values that you're trying to, you know, really amplify as a brand and as a community together. And then let them contribute, you know, listen to those conversations that they're having without you, add yourself into those conversations, see how you can help and add more value. And then, you know, always ask for feedback and take that feedback and implement it. And if it, you know, doesn't land, then figure out what you can do to fix it and make it better. or figure out what you can do in replacement of what didn't land. You know, maybe you misinterpreted feedback and that's okay, right? It's all a lesson. And, you know, we think about community and relationship development with our customers from that lens of, you know, I'm building a long-term relationship with my customers. There's a lot that goes into a relationship long-term. And not every part of that long-term relationship is going to be great, right? Like there's going to be parts where you're swinging and you're missing, right? But you have to make sure that you're always evolving and you're always adding value and figuring out how you can be better as a brand, so that you can keep that trust and keep that relationship going, right? And I think, you know, everything that you just said is in terms of how you communicate with your community and how you contribute to your community is key to really working on that long-term relationship.
Definitely. And I just want to touch on something you said there real quick, because you brought up that word again, trust. And I know that obviously the entire point of branding is building trust. That's what branding does. It's not about, you know, this beautiful thing. It's not about colors and fonts and all that kind of stuff apart from themselves, right? It's about building trust. It's about that complete experience and the mark that that experience with your company makes in the minds of your customers and potential customers. So how would you say that this community piece functions in building trust with your brand as a whole?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think one of the most important parts of community and in its relation to building trust is the support, right? Because, you know, for us, it's the community is our space where we can make sure that our students and our customers, no matter how they're involved with their brand, are seeing results, right? And being able to produce results is a really big builder of trust, right? Because it gives some validity to what you're doing, right? To be able to say, like, so many of my customers have actually been able to accomplish what we're saying that you're going to be able to accomplish by, you know, coming into this and taking this journey with us. I also think that it's important because it's your opportunity to be, you know, have some humility as a brand too, because like I said earlier, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be a mistake that you will make. And, you know, that's having an engaged community and having that open conversation is a great opportunity to be able to make those mistakes right. You know, for example, we had a collaboration with a brand that we offered, you know, a promotion through, and they didn't have the same level of customer service or prioritize that level of customer service in the same way that we do, right? So not that they did it poorly or anything, it just wasn't at the same expectation that our customers have through us. So by creating that kind of like affiliation, it got a little bit lost. And I think, you know, we had that opportunity to then go talk to our customers and say like, hey, you know, like we recognize all of this. This is how we're going to work together to make sure that all of this goes right moving forward. And if we didn't have that, you know, community and people coming to us and being open with us about their experience, we would have never been able to fix that. And that could have been really detrimental to us, but it wasn't, because we had that open form of communication. We built that trust because we recognized maybe something that didn't necessarily fit into the realm of our brand at that time, or, you know, at the same level that we were playing at, or, you know, the same expectations that our customers have with us. You know, we weren't meeting them in that situation. And by being able to address that up front and have that community space to really review what happened and how we could fix it, I think that really strengthened the trust within our brand as well.
Absolutely. That's huge, because now not only am I listening to you, but now you know that that consistent experience, like we're talking about, which is your entire brand, that consistent experience is so important to me that I am willing to say to you, I messed up and I'm really sorry. And I want you to know this is not what you should be expecting from us. And we're going to make it right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, this has been such an amazing conversation. Is there anything that you feel like we didn't cover yet, or anything that you would share with business owners who are listening and their minds, you know, I just see like wheels going in their minds of like, okay, how can I start to cultivate my community, or how can I better engage the community that I have? What would you say to them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, my big piece of advice is that you don't have to feel like community is just another thing that you need to add to your to-do list, right? Like you don't have to have that dedicated space for your community. You don't have to have a community strategy. You don't have to have all of this stuff, all the bells and whistles to be able to discover and really amplify the community that already exists around your brand. You just need to go out, like we said earlier, listen, participate in those conversations, and just make sure that everything that you're putting out into the world and everything that you're delivering to your customers is a value add. Look for the feedback, listen to the feedback, implement the feedback, and just really prioritize long-term relationships. Absolutely.
And celebrate their wins too.
Always.
Yeah. Just real quick. A great example of this is one of our clients, Crown Made, who her entire, brand identity starts with, we are made for the resin makers. And so she makes these resin molds. Mm-hmm. And as people are using her molds on social media and tagging her and using this specific hashtag, she shares it all the time. And so now I think things like that are something that business owners overlook also. Like that is a very simple thing that you can do to cultivate community, because now those resin makers say, oh, Crown Made sees me and they see what I'm doing and they care about me. Like they're genuinely here for the resin makers. They're here to celebrate my wins. And now, first of all, it helps her because she's got all this content she can use, right? Yeah. For her own social channels, but also it makes those resin makers feel like part of this Crown Made resin maker community. And now they're also being promoted really to the outside world as well. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. That's essential, especially to us too. And also celebrating the wins of your community just shows that like you're as excited about their career as they are. Right. And that's, for us, that's how we continue to grow and how we continue welcoming people in, by letting them know, like, we're here for you always. We want to hear when you do something that's great. We want to hear when you need help, and we want to be here through all those ups and downs for the rest of your career.
Which is awesome. And again, like you were saying, that long-term relationship, that's what goes into a long-term relationship.
Oh yeah. 100%.
So good. Wow. Well, thank you so much, Sydney. How can people get in touch with you who want to see more about what you're doing, learn more about the Sarahan community, all of that?
Yep. So anyone can find me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is @Sydney_Sherman. So you can find me there. And you can always reach out to me via email too. I love talking to people about community. I love talking to people about Sell Like Sirhan, and, Sirhan as an entire company. You can reach me at Sydney@Sirhan.com.
Perfect. And I will put those links in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Thank you. It was so nice talking to you.
So great talking to you as always. Sydney and I have had the pleasure of being friends for a number of years now.
Yes.
And I just want to say again, how just impressed and blown away I am by the growth of Sarahan, and especially everything that you're doing. And to me, it's such, speaking of results, right? It is such a testament to the power of what we're talking about here, that as you really focus and invest, it's really an investment in your community. It's not just one more thing you have to do, one more thing you have to think about. And we're not trying to make it that, I'm really big about everything that I share on this podcast isn't about one more thing you have to do. But if you look at this piece as an investment, you're really investing in the long-term growth of your brand and your business.
Absolutely.
So definitely go back, take notes if you need to on all the gold that Sydney dropped in here. And I guarantee that you are going to start to see this kind of growth because I've watched it happen with Sydney for Sarahan. So it's just awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, we hope you found great value in today's episode. If you did, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with a friend. It would mean the world to us if you would do that. We want to empower as many as we can to go out and rock your brand like a boss. We'll catch you on the next episode. Keep rocking.